Most of us log on thinking the internet is a vast, open public square, a place where the best ideas naturally rise to the top, driven purely by what people care about. But that open square is an illusion. The moment you open a browser, you are stepping into an active, high-stakes war zone. Two massive opposing factions are fighting a daily, invisible battle for control over what you see, read, and believe. To understand who is fighting, we have to look back to the baseline of Web 2.0 around 2005. The web was chaotic, raw, and mostly open. The only referees were human forum moderators and simple blog gatekeepers trying to keep the peace. Then the digital landscape exploded with a faction we can call the jumping bloggers. A sudden, uncontrollable spread of platforms like MySpace, Blogger, and early Twitter decentralized media power overnight, handing a global megaphone to anyone with a keyboard. This immediate loss of control terrified the old guard. Institutional powers, political entities, and corporate lobbies realized they were quickly losing their monopoly on the public narrative, so they formed a counterfaction, the Politicomics. Legacy mainstream media tried to act as an assistant referee for these institutions, attempting to curate and control the news cycle from sanitized broadcast desks. But they were rapidly overwhelmed by the sheer, deafening volume of thousands of new digital voices breaking stories in real time. The digital landscape we navigate today grew directly out of this friction. Every interface we use is shaped by the tug-of-war between decentralized creators and the institutions trying to contain them. The decentralized web relies on speed and numbers. Their primary offensive strategy is completely bypassing traditional media filters through rapid microblogging, the act of posting short, frequent updates to a global stream, and independent publishing. Grassroots information sharing has deep analog roots. We can see it in physical, self-published zines traded by hand, an early method of bypassing corporate approval that predates the modern web. The core tactic driving this is called surveillance. Surveillance is the act of observing and recording from below, rather than above. Instead of a single state camera watching the public, a massive network of everyday citizens turns their lenses back onto the state. You see this in action every time a citizen pulls out a smartphone to instantly broadcast the actions of a police officer or politician to a global, live audience. To protect themselves from direct institutional retaliation, these citizen journalists rely heavily on anonymity. Operating without a real name or face acts as a crucial defensive shield when leaking sensitive information. When this anonymity scales up across thousands of users, it transforms isolated bloggers into a collective, faceless movement, capable of staring down institutional power and dictating the public conversation. By combining instant mass broadcasting with collective anonymity, the public stripped traditional gatekeepers of their ability to control the truth. To survive, institutions had to invent entirely new weapons. Modern power structures rarely rely on outright bans to silence opposition. Bans draw attention. Instead, they use sophisticated, invisible mechanisms of friction to wear down the opposition. The first line of defense is mass distraction. Spin doctors intentionally flood the internet with irrelevant noise, conflicting reports, and chaotic digital static to successfully bury inconvenient facts before they can spread. But their most effective weapon is fully automated, the algorithm. The algorithm acts as an invisible, corporate-funded referee, a set of automated rules that determine which content gets promoted and which gets hidden, trained specifically to corral and suppress chaotic, decentralized voices. This data flow diagram shows how it works in practice. The system actively categorizes unpredictable content and quietly reroutes it. It demotes specific topics and isolates those posts away from a mainstream public feed, trapping them in disconnected bubbles. When algorithms aren't enough, political powers execute legislative ambushes. They use the emotional guise of public safety, or even human survival, to quietly pass heavy-handed laws that centralize control. The physical result of these laws looks like this: direct legal redaction, the process of editing documents to remove sensitive text, and the aggressive classification of public records to protect the state from scrutiny. These black boxes act as a concrete defensive wall. By removing the data entirely, they completely neutralize any attempts by citizen surveillance to penetrate the most critical levels of institutional power. And standing behind both the digital filters and the political legislation is the unseen coach, the corporate lobby. They fund the algorithms and apply the legislative pressure necessary to ensure their own interests are protected. These tools allow institutions to subtly rewrite the underlying physics of the internet, ensuring the house always wins without ever having to pull the plug. If we pull back to view the entire ecosystem, one thing is clear: the early Wild West days of a gatekeeper-free internet are permanently over. But the corporate political takeover isn't absolute either. Instead, we are locked in an endless daily blitz between grassroots chaos and institutional order, with neither side able to fully overpower the other. The direct consequence for you is that neutrality is dead. Open a social app, read a blog post, or follow a trending hashtag. You are actively walking into a live digital skirmish. To navigate this landscape, you have to actively look for the invisible referees. Pay attention to the AI algorithms curating your feed and the legislative lobbies deciding what content is legally allowed to reach your screen. Which side of this invisible information war holds the line today will determine the ultimate rules of the internet. The code is just the medium. The outcome depends on the conflict itself.